Hey everybody, I'm Justin with ExtremeTerrain.com, and today I'm taking a closer look at installing OPR's front CV axle shaft setup here, available for your 2005 through 2023 four-wheel drive Tacoma. Now you should be considering these options from OPR if you're looking for an affordable set of factory-styled replacements to ultimately replace a faulty or failing stock CV on your Tacoma at home. So in talking features here with the OPR options, there's really not a ton to go into because keep in mind guys, at the end of the day, these are simply going to be a factory replacement designed to get your Tacoma back on the road and do so affordably. Now I will say in my experience, these seem to be built on par, if not better, than the stockers in regards to overall toughness. So I would say there is going to be a little bit of benefit there as well. Now moving into construction, and as you can see, these are going to be sold in pairs from OPR. And again, they will be equal to that of the stockers in regards to overall build quality and dimensions. With that being said, these are a factory length option intended for use on stock ride height rigs, all the way up to a small lift, but maybe more hardcore rock crawlers out there might want to consider an extended travel option in regards to something that will offer a little bit more robust of a build, or just ball out and go with something like an RCV option if you're really putting your truck through that much abuse. Now outside of that guys, I would say look forward to things like the upgraded boots. You have stainless steel clamps working for you here, heavy duty materials throughout, all to ensure a long noise-free operation over the years. Now coming in at or around that low $300 price point for the pair does put these options from OPR right in line with other more basic factory style replacements, both here on the site or maybe from your local parts store, but still a heck of a lot cheaper than going down to your local Toyota dealer and buying a pair there. So certainly something to keep in mind. All right, now let's move into our installation portion of today's video. And the site's gonna call this a soft 3 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you about 3 hours or so to knock out both axles from start to finish. As always, just an estimate, so if it takes you a little bit longer, don't get too discouraged. But now to give you a better idea of how things might go down on your Tacoma at home, let's throw it out to the shop for our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a chisel, needle nose pliers, a pry bar, dead blow hammer, rubber mallet, a ratchet, a torque wrench, 19mm socket, 10mm Allen socket, 35 and 41mm axle sockets, and some differential fluid. What's up guys? Today we're installing front CV axles on our Tacoma, so let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is remove the cover that our axle nut's behind so that we can remove that. So I'm going to take a chisel and a hammer just to work my way around to work this off. We'll get it right in between the lip there. Next we can bend the tabs on the cotter pin straight so that we can pull that out. We'll remove this cover and then remove our axle nut. So I'm getting a pair of needle nose pliers to bend that out. And then we'll squeeze the two sides together. And then I'm gonna get one side of the needle nose pliers into the cotter pin, grab it, and then I'm gonna take a hammer and tap this out. And then we can remove this cover, and then take a 35mm axle socket to remove our axle nut. Next, we're gonna come underneath the lower control arm and remove these two 19mm bolts for our lower ball joint cradle. So grab a 19mm socket and pop those out. So now we're gonna separate the axle from the hub. So you're just gonna pull on the caliper, and then you can take a hammer. We're gonna be reusing this axle, so I'm using a rubber mallet here so we don't mushroom the tip. And we're just gonna knock that backwards. So now we're ready to separate our axle from our differential. Now, in order to not lose a lot of fluid, what I'm gonna do is have the new axle on standby ready so that as soon as we knock this out, we can push this in and minimize our fluid loss. I've got a bucket here sitting right underneath where they connect to catch all that fluid. We have notches here that we're gonna put a pry bar on and use a hammer to try and knock that out. You can't use a pry bar in between here because you run the risk of damaging that seal. So now these are the notches you wanna hit against. You can also rotate this around as you work your way around to hit it evenly. I'm gonna start out by getting a pry bar here and tapping with a hammer. So now we're getting that separation, so I'm gonna go to the front, I'm gonna pull this out, have my next axle on standby, and push it in so that we don't lose a lot of fluid here. So now just make sure you have a bucket underneath and pull that the rest of the way out. And now once you have your splines lined up, you can grab your hammer and your pry bar and start working it the other way. And now we just need to maneuver the hub portion of our axle into the hub. So now I'm going to take our new nut and thread it onto the threads, and we're just going to use a ratchet to tighten it down, just to pull it through so that we can get our lower ball joint cradle reattached. So just thread that on until it bottoms out, and then you can take an 1 5/8" socket or a 41mm socket and just tighten that down to pull that through. Next, we can thread in the 2 bolts for our lower ball joint cradle. Now you're gonna have to do a little bit of manipulation of the hub and the cradle here to get these bolts to thread. You wanna make sure you're catching a good thread before you run them in with a gun. And now that we've got our thread started on both of these, we'll take that 19mm socket to tighten them down. So now you're going to want to grab a torque wrench to torque your axle nut down to spec. Now for the Tacoma, it's going to be 235 foot-pounds. So you're either going to want to put your wheel back on and put it on the ground and hit the brakes so that this hub doesn't spin and you're able to tighten down the nut. Or you can do what I'm doing. I have a buddy in the driver's seat holding the brake pedal so that this doesn't spin. Got my torque wrench set to 235 foot-pounds, and we're gonna tighten that down. So now we're gonna slide our cotter pin through the hole and bend it up over the end of our stud here. And then with that in place, we can put our cover back on, line it up. And then I'm just gonna take a rubber mallet here to tap that back on. And now once you have that done, you can repeat the same process on the other side, and then we'll fill up the differential fluid. Now once you got both of your axles in, you can go ahead and come to the fill plug. It's gonna be directly next to where our driver's side axle went in. You're gonna take a 10mm Allen socket to loosen up and remove this. And then you're gonna take some 75W85 gearbox oil to fill up to the top. Now you're gonna fill this until you have some fluid dripping down from the plug, and then we'll put the plug back in and tighten it down. So we'll get that 10mm Allen socket to break that loose. And then take your fluid and fill it up until it starts to pour out. We want to make sure there's a steady stream. And now we've got that steady stream, so we're just going to thread our plug back in and then tighten it back down with our 10mm Allen socket. We'll just go until it bottoms out and then give it a little bit more. You don't want to over tighten that. And then just clean up the area you worked with. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the OPR front CV axle shafts for your 2005 to 23 Tacoma. Thank you for watching, and for all things Tacoma, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.